of the classical period, the study of philosophy has shifted from being a practical way of life to being a largely bookish and theoretical pursuit. This change has been lamented by many, such as the British Philhellene Lord Byron, who mourned the decline of Athens and the fading memory of Socrates, the quintessential Athenian philosopher. As Byron reminisced about watching the Mediterranean sun disappear behind the mountains, he exclaimed, "On such an eve his palest beam he cast, when Athens, here thy wisest looked his last. How watched thy better sons his farewell ray, that closed their murdered sages' latest day." Socrates was, of course, executed, not literally murdered, by his fellow citizens. Byron's language is meant to express a sense of terrible injustice and loss. Yet despite Socrates' reputation as one of history's greatest sages, his teachings and the remarkable stories of his life, with which they were entwined, remain unfamiliar to the majority of people. The Socratic dialogues are seldom read today, except by a handful of classical scholars, and Plato's Academy, the cradle of Western philosophy, has lain in ruins for well over 1,000 years. But it does still exist. I lay my hand on the grass, close my eyes, and imagine that Socrates and his fellow philosophers are still here. The sun warms my face. I can smell the scorched dust of the paths, mingling with the fragrance of cypress and pine trees. Dogs are barking, and I can hear the shrieks of children playing. Young people exercise here, jogging, skipping rope, and practicing martial arts. The Academy was one of several gymnasia, or sports grounds, in ancient Athens. You can still descend into the ruins of a palestra, or wrestling school, in the middle of Academia Platonus Park, as it's now known. Stray cats saunter through the rubble instead of famous philosophers. Plato lived near these grounds and taught philosophy here. His house was probably a short walk to the northeast, near the hill of Colonus. After his death, his body was entombed somewhere in the vicinity. Perhaps his remains still lie here, somewhere beneath my feet. Whenever I want to feel a connection to ancient philosophy, I take a leaf out of Cicero's book and come to visit the grounds of the ancient Athenian Academy. I often recollect his remarks about the great thinkers who once walked here. Paradoxically, focusing on their absence somehow makes them feel more present. I imagine Cicero himself could walk around the corner any minute, emerging from behind a copse of trees, in deep conversation with his companions, soon to be followed by Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, Diogenes the Cynic, Aristotle, Plato, or even Socrates. We're told they all set foot here. Despite laying in ruins, the spirit of the Academy still lingers. It serves as a reminder of a time when philosophy was a shared journey, not just an academic exercise. By offering a contemporary exploration of Socratic wisdom and its practical relevance to our everyday lives, this book seeks to rekindle some sense of what it might once have been like to walk here, conversing with Socrates and his fellow philosophers. My first encounter with philosophy was very different. I was about 17 years old, living in Scotland, when I chanced upon a copy of Plato's magnum opus, The Republic, while nosing through a stranger's bookshelf. It is Plato's longest dialogue featuring Socrates. Spanning 10 chapters, this dialogue portrays Socrates discussing the nature of justice and the ideal political state, with several other interlocutors, the term used for participants in the conversation. The Republic opens with Socrates telling an elderly friend that he thinks of life as a journey. We should try to learn as much as we can, he says, from fellow travellers who have already experienced